whatever choice you make is the right choice. Even if it goes wrong, you learn from that. And so you have to, once you've weighed everything up, make that choice.
When you take a wrong turn on Google Maps, it doesn't scream at you and go, oh my God, you're so stupid. Why'd you do this turn? It just says, rerouting.
It reroutes. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, absolutely. I've rerouted so many times, especially when I'm driving around Dubai. But you know, in life, you do have to reroute.
So, hello and welcome to Decoding Life, a podcast aimed to help teens navigate their way through life's struggles, and especially when you have lots of big life decisions to be making. My name is Aishani and I'm the host, and today we have the lovely Miss Laura joining us today as our guest.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for asking me.
So first of all, would you mind telling us a bit about your background, where you're from, your passions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from the UK originally. I came to the UAE for 2 years, 9 years ago. And I've loved it, so I decided to stay. I'm originally a history teacher, but I studied government and politics at university. From university, I worked in Westminster for a Member of Parliament because I was so passionate for politics. But I really felt that my passions were about helping people, and I didn't think that I was doing that in that line of work. So I changed direction and became a teacher. And I remember the first time I taught a lesson, I thought, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I worked in London at an outstanding school there. And then I moved to the UAE to work at an Emirati boys' school 9 years ago. I've worked there for 5 years. Then I moved to Dubai for a bit. And then I moved home to Abu Dhabi to come to Raha. And I've been here for around 18 months. And I'm delighted to be here. I love this school and the students and the community. I think it's a great place to work.
That's really nice to hear. But just going back a little bit, you worked in Parliament?
I did, yes. When I was at university, I took part in a scholarship programme, and I worked with a Member of Parliament, volunteered for the summer, and I worked on a marketing programme for them. And when I went back to university for my third year, I was originally looking to go into the civil service, but the Member of Parliament reached out to me and said, we'd love for you to come back and work for us full time. And I did. I was a research and communications officer in Westminster, so I was writing speeches, accompanying my MP out in the constituency, going on visits, and it was really, really helpful for me to understand our country, how the country works, but also to understand on a minute level how to run a constituency and how to run an office and work with a team. So it was a great way to start off my career, but actually the making a difference to people's lives was really what I was passionate about. I really wanted to know that what I was doing meant something. And so both of my parents have worked as teachers, and I was inspired by them, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna be brave and try something new. And I'm really, really glad that I did. I was nervous about trying it, but I thought, you know, if this is something I want to do and want to try, let's go for it, let's go all in. And I did, and here I am all those years later living in the Middle East having a fantastic time. So I'm very glad I was brave, yeah.
That was a really big shift, to be honest.
Yes.
Tell us more about how you went from realizing that maybe politics was not exactly for you to realizing what you want to do and connecting that to teaching.
Yeah, I think it is difficult because when you're your age, you have to make these what feel like monumental decisions around what you're going to study, what your future's going to look like. And I think I am still interested in government and politics. I still have a passion. You know, I watch the news, I read newspapers, I want to talk about these things. But in my heart, I knew that I was missing something. That you know, waking up every day and knowing that I make a difference. I didn't feel that in what I was doing. And so I did lots of research around, I looked into maybe becoming a nurse because I thought that could be where I could make a difference. But ultimately, I really enjoy working with young people. And I learnt that through my work with the Member of Parliament, because we would go out into the community and we would work in schools. And I thought, this is great. You know who are the most exciting, interesting people? Young people, teenagers specifically. And so I thought about my passions, which was government and politics and history, and also sport and exercise, but I kind of left that to one side and thought, if I take government and history, that's what I'm interested in. I want to work with young people. Bringing those things together made me look into teaching. And I did so I researched the different areas I could study and look into, and then I spoke to my friends that were teachers, and I went into the profession with my eyes open. Now, many people say you don't go into teaching for the fame or the money. You go into it because you have a passion about your subject, or you have a passion about working with young people. And I felt very informed when I made that decision to change my career path. And ultimately, I started to train to be a teacher in my early 20s, whereas some people might feel, oh, that's too late, you're changing career paths, that's crazy. Whereas actually I look back now, almost twice as old as that, that actually I was so young and there are so many opportunities out there. So I think if you're well informed, you research, you think about it and you make an informed decision and you make that leap, I think you should go for it.
So when you're at the stage of making a leap or changing your pathway, was there a person or a mechanism or a mindset that helped you to make that change and stick with it?
Yeah, I think I'm very fortunate that I have my best friends back home I've known since I was 11, since the first day of secondary school. So I have a really good network of people that I can talk to and talk about how I'm feeling. And when I was a little younger than you, I did struggle with self-confidence. And I think probably I still do underneath it all, really. And I think having a good group of a network who I could talk to and be honest with, I think is important. I'm also very lucky that my parents are hugely supportive in my decision-making process. So having that network was important, but also being informed, and I didn't make a rash choice. I took time over that decision, I thought about it, and I think being informed and sharing those ideas with other people really helped me make that decision. And I think my dad's fantastic because I worry a lot, and I worry about making the right choice. And my dad has always said, whatever choice you make is the right choice. Even if it goes wrong, you learn from that. And so you have to, once you've weighed everything up, make that choice. And if it goes well, fantastic. But we all know the greatest learning opportunities is when something goes wrong. And so whatever choice you make, it's the right one because you have an opportunity to learn from it. And I always keep that in mind when I'm weighing up a difficult decision. Whatever choice I make will be the right one. So that's what I would say to young people making those choices. Talk it through, think about it, research, and then make that informed decision because it is the right choice to make.
It's an interesting way to think about it because obviously everyone thinks that, okay, maybe I did this thing in the past, it wasn't the best decision,
Yeah.
I wish I could go back and change it.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe that every choice you make is the right choice. I don't know, I'm struggling to think about that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting way of looking at it because I think my mum used to call me a what-ifer because I would always say, what if this happens and what if that happens and what if that happens? And my dad was saying, yeah, and you'll deal with it. I've made some really brave choices. I moved to the Middle East 9 years ago alone, not really knowing anything about where I was moving to. But I weighed it up, I thought about it, and I said, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And my dad said, whatever happens, it's the right choice. Because you're not sat back at home thinking, what if I'd gone? I should have been brave enough. So I made that choice and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm happy with that choice that I'd made. But equally, if I'd have moved to the UAE, it hadn't worked out for me. It was the right choice because now I would have known what it was like to live overseas. And it wasn't for me, possibly. I'm lucky that it has worked out. But in those 9 years that I've been here, I've made some terrible decisions. But it's the right decision at the time because I've had an opportunity to learn from it. And so I think it's a mind shift. I try very hard to not live with regret because what can come from that? There are things that if I look back on now and I say, if I were to do that again, I would do it differently, which is different from having regret. I've made poor choices when it comes to friendships and things like that. And not having good people around you can have a detrimental impact on you. And so now I'm very particular about who I'm friends with because I know that reflects on me. The way that I think is impacted on the people I have around me. And so, yes, if I could go back and not be friends with that person, I probably would. But actually, it was the right choice because I learned from that, and now I make better choices about who I spend my time with, because you are a reflection of the people that are around you, and the way that you think and the way that you feel about yourself is reflected in the people around you. So I think it is a mind shift, but it's one that I try and think of. I'm not saying it's easy.
Definitely
You know,
isn't.
even last night I was thinking, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that, you know, and actually I did say it. So I have to accept that and think, well, next time I'm in that position, I'll act differently. And so trying to think about it as a learning opportunity rather than a mistake, I think is how I try and frame it. Not always easily done, but one that I try to do.
I think the hardest part about that is learning from it and then leaving it in the past. So just leaving it behind is so difficult.
Absolutely. And we've all been there at 2:00 in the morning, you know, laid in bed, not sleeping, thinking about that thing that I shouldn't have done 5 years ago, and we can't get it out of our minds. That is, you know, human, and so many of us suffer with that. But it's acknowledging that we are human and we will make mistakes, and having that grace with yourself. I remember a friend years ago, I was being tough on myself, and a friend said to me, you need to speak to yourself the way you speak to me. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, you are so mean to yourself. You know, oh, Laura, why did you say that? Why did you do that? Gosh, you're so silly, and or why didn't you learn anything? And she said, you wouldn't speak to me like that. So why would you speak to yourself like that? And I thought, what an interesting way of looking at things.
Oh my
you know,
God,
you will spend your entire life with you. And so if you can't be kind to yourself for the mistakes that you've made, or the decisions that you look back on and think, I shouldn't have done that, you can't expect anybody else to. And so trying to speak to yourself in the way that you would speak to your best friend, open, honest, with kindness, I think is really, really important, and something that I wish I'd have learned when I was your age, because I've been horrible to myself in the past, and there are moments where I'm horrible to myself now. But trying to remember that, you know, treat yourself with the kindness you would treat others, I think is really, really important.
That just stuck with me so hard because everyone's hard on themselves.
Absolutely.
We all have expectations, and when we don't meet them,
Yeah.
we're like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, I don't know who it was who was talking about this, but she was saying, when you take a wrong turn on Google Maps, it doesn't scream at you and go, oh my God, you're so stupid. Why did you do this turn? It just says, rerouting.
It reroutes. Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, absolutely. I've rerouted so many times, especially when I'm driving around Dubai. But, you know, in life, you do have to reroute. You have to. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. You know, it thinks about it, and then it sends you in a different direction. Okay, it might take you a little bit longer. You know, in life, I think we do feel precious that by this age I have to know exactly what I'm doing, and by this age I'm going to be a doctor, and by this age I'm going to be doing this. In reality, I haven't done as many things as I would have thought I would do by the time I'm my age. You know, I'm turning 40 soon, and you know that feels like a real grown-up age. And actually, you don't feel like
I can't tell. So
well, thank you. That's very kind of you. But I don't anyway, feel like a grown-up. You know, I'm still learning, and I just think knowing that you're on your own journey. You know, when Google reroutes you, it might take a couple of minutes longer. It might take, especially in Dubai, 25 minutes longer if you've gone the wrong way. But it's the same in life. I haven't necessarily, my life hasn't gone in the speed or direction that I thought it would, but that's okay. I've found my own route, and I'm very, very happy now. And I think if you'd have said to me in my early 20s or even my late 20s, that I would be as happy as I am where I am, even though, you know, there are certain things in life I haven't achieved that I would have thought I had done by the time I was 25. You know, I think I would be surprised by that, but understanding that you're on your own route, I think is really, really important. And comparison is the biggest thief of joy. If you compare yourself to others, you're always going to feel, oh, I should have done it like them, or I should have done things differently. So I think being confident in that, in yourself and your route, is important.
I think that's really, really important. If there's one piece of advice or something that helped you stick with yourself and get through this entire journey, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you have to be your biggest and kindest friend and advocate. I know I have struggled with self-confidence a lot in life, I never thought I was clever enough or funny enough or hard work enough, all of those things that we say about ourselves. And it's taken age, unfortunately, and life experiences for me to get there. And I think it's only now in life that I feel comfortable and confident with who I am as a person. But if I could have gotten to that when I was your age, accepting who I am, not having to change because that person wants me to be like that, or if I do this, I'm going to be more popular. Being confident and proud of who you are as a person, because there is no one like you, and that is such a gift. There are 8 billion of us on this planet, and if we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. And I think I spent a lot of my life wanting to be like other people, and with age, I've realised how useless that is. So I think if you can be your biggest friend and champion, you must like yourself first. And then building on that self-confidence that I am who I am, and that's great. And making sure you surround yourself with friends that make you feel that way. Because if you're around friends that don't make you feel that way, that's not going to help you develop to be the best person that you are. So I think being your best friend and surrounding yourself with people that lift you up, I think is really, really important. Yeah.
It definitely takes courage to do that as well. Like, personally, if I have to reassess and be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be friends with this person, to cut those ties, or at least distance myself, and find someone else to be friends with, it's so difficult, and you have to be so brave to do it.
Absolutely. And I think, especially at your age, at teenage years, especially with online platforms, it's incredibly difficult, and it does take bravery. And I think, finding your people does take time, especially in an environment like the UAE. People come and go, so you might have a best friend that you've known for 5 years that leaves. That's incredibly difficult. You might be new and you might find it hard to build friends. And what I found when I was at school is I found my friendships through sport. So yes, I was passionate about history and government whilst I was in school, but it was through sport where it's actually where I found my confidence and my friendship. Because when I was at school, I was very average. If you were to go back to my school now and say, does anyone remember Laura Osman? They'd say, who? Because I was very average. But if you went to my sports clubs and said, do you remember Laura Osman? I hope someone would. Because actually I had the right coaches that saw something in me and developed that confidence. And because I had a bit more confidence on the sports field, I then developed friends, and we grew together. And so I think finding your tribe is really important. So don't be afraid to go and try new things, whether it's making a podcast, whether it's playing for the netball team, whether it's being part of the backstage team in a school performance. Finding those like-minded people is important. And you might do backstage and think, actually that's not for me, I think I'd rather be front of stage. Fantastic, let's try that again next year. Don't be afraid to try those new things, to meet the people that are going to lift you up. I think it's important. And it's very hard to cut ties with friends that don't lift you up. And there might be times where friendships shift and change. You might be very close to some people in grade 9, but actually those friendships shift in grade 10. And I think that is difficult, but you do have to look after yourself first, and then think about others with kindness as well. Because just because they're not your person doesn't mean they're not a person that you should treat with kindness, I think.
And the hardest part is, as you grow older, if you find these friendships when you're younger, and even I'm working through this, as you get older, you're going to have different interests, and that does translate into academic interests. So you end up sometimes having less and less time. And having enough time with the right people can be so difficult sometimes.
And especially as a DP student, I mean, you have so many plates spinning, and to do all of your courses, all of your extracurricular things, and make time for friends is really, really hard. If I think about my best friends back home, there are 8 of us, and there's 3 teachers, and everyone else does completely different things, banking and all different things, and we don't get together that often. I live overseas, but we do stay in touch, even if it's just a message here or there, checking in on you, hope everything went okay. We have those regular opportunities to just show interest. The great thing is that when I see them once a year, the whole group, once a year when I go home in the summer, and we put it in the calendar. It's in the calendar already, 6 months in advance. Everyone has to make that date. So we do make time for it. And even though I haven't seen them for a year, we slot straight back into it like we were together last week. And so we all have these different interests and different lives, but actually we care about one another. And so when we do have that time, we make sure that time happens. And so for you, with all of the things that you've got going on, friendship, I would say, is a big part of your well-being. And so yes, you do have to think about your EE deadlines. You do have to think about all your TTO, you know, all of those things. But scheduling time for you with whatever lifts you up, I think is important. So that might be spending time with friends. It might be spending time alone. Whatever that is that makes you feel better, I think that is important for you to be your best self.
How do you, just out of curiosity, because I realize with whatever profession you're in and living overseas and having so many friends and family back home, there's so many things you have to juggle, and it just increases. The number of things you have to juggle as you get older definitely increases. So right now I feel like my responsibilities are just way too much and it's just overwhelming, but it'll only get worse. How do you cope with having to work on so many things at once?
It's a great question. I was messaging some friends this morning, and one of them lives 2 roads away from me, and I haven't seen her for 3 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. And we both said, oh my goodness, we're so busy, we never find the time. And it is true, you can get incredibly busy. And I don't know if I've got it right. I like to think I'm a good example of work-life balance, but I don't know if I am at the moment. I love my work, and so I'm someone who enjoys working, so I spend a lot of time at work, and I know how fortunate I am to be in the job that I'm in the school that I'm in the country that I'm in, and so I enjoy being at work. Now that does mean that I might not be the best friend at the moment, or I might not be the best wife at the moment, because my priority at the moment is my work, because I'm so passionate about what we're doing here at Raha. So what that means is that I can't be 100% all of the time. And I think that's how I try and see it, is that it would be too much to expect me to be a great friend, a great leader, be at the gym all the time, all of those things. I have to appreciate that at the moment, my friendships are via WhatsApp. If I can grab a quick coffee on a Saturday morning for 20 minutes as we walk my friend's baby around a park, great, I'll do it. But that will have to be a snatched moment because of my other priorities. And I think with you and with all of the things that you have on, I think it's having enough grace with yourself to understand that you cannot be 100% all of the time in everything. You have all of these plates spinning, but you've got one going, and that's okay. You probably just need to look at this one a little bit more right now. And those priorities will shift and change throughout the day, throughout the week, and through the month and the year. And so it's not an easy balance, and we get it wrong. I've gotten it wrong so many times, especially with work-life balance. There'll be moments where I think, oh my goodness, have you seen the time? I must get home. If my stepdaughter's going to bed in 20 minutes, I'm going to miss it, you know? And I have to, that's when my priorities have to shift in that moment. And I know I've gotten that wrong. And so that's where I have to think about, I don't regret that. I have to think, right, well, on Wednesdays, I know I have to get back by this time. So I set an alarm on my phone that says, go home. And I know I have to leave at that moment because I know I have to get back for bedtime. So it's not easy, but it's about finding a way that works for you. And for me, it's about reminders on my phone and understanding that whilst I'm spinning a lot of plates, some will need more focus than others at different times. In the summer, I'm fortunate that I have a long summer, and where my work plate I get to put down for a couple of weeks, where I shut my laptop. I might open it every now and then on just throughout the day, but it's not open all the time, so I can 100% be there for my friends and family and make sure that I'm there. But then come August and September, I have to bring the laptop back, and that, you know, so it's finding that, and it's very hard, but I make sure that I have people around me that say, Laura, you need to do this. Have you thought about that? And friendships aren't always about saying the things you want to hear. It's about saying the things you need to hear. Yeah. It's about being kind or being nice. Now, let's say you're about to be interviewed and you've got some cabbage in your teeth, okay? Now, I can't remember which way around it is. If I'm nice, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, so I'm not going to say anything. But the kindness in me is that I know you don't want cabbage in your teeth to be recorded, so I need to tell you, you know? So that's the same with friendships. I might want my friends to say all the time, oh, Laura, you're doing a great job. Everything's going fantastically. Well done, you. But actually, a real good friend will say, you just need to refocus a little bit here. And I'll be like, do you know what? You're absolutely right. Thank you. I needed that feedback. I needed that reminder. And maybe it's not the nicest thing to hear, but it's with kindness to make sure none of those plates drop, because that's not what you want to happen. It's a very long answer, sorry.
No, but again, it was really good advice as well, because I'm hearing people talking about time management and they're going, you need to manage your time, you need to focus, be disciplined, be motivated, and I'm like, okay, but you can't do everything at once. But this is so much better, like understanding and accepting the fact that you can't do everything at once. You have to prioritize, and it's okay to let some things go a little bit at some times. Yeah,
definitely. And I think, you know, especially with you guys, you'll have so many people pulling you in different directions. You know, your physics paper's due. Oh, your English essay's due. Have you thought about your EE? You know, you've got all of those things. And I think prioritizing is really important. You know, there will be some subjects that you find a lot easier, and I think there'll be subjects that you find more challenging, and so you have to know yourself well enough to be able to prioritize those. Now, I know I can easily fall into a Instagram or whatever. I'm swiping, I'm just going to swipe for 2 minutes, and then I look up and I'm like, wow, 20 minutes has gone past, you know? And if I'm in your position where if I have to use my time effectively outside of school, I would have to be able to be honest with myself and say, Laura, it's never 2 minutes, you know.
Never
so
is.
Actually, if you are going to scroll, and you need scrolling time, you know, at a certain age on the right platforms and all of that, you need that time for yourself. But I can't do 20 minutes straight away when I get, 2 minutes straight away when I get home, because it will be 20 minutes. And then I haven't had that opportunity to interact with other people. I've not been there. And so I have to know that actually I'm not going to get my phone out yet because I need to work on my EE submission, for example, and understanding yourself and where your limitations are and where your strengths are. Because as I said, none of us are the same. So some people might be able to scroll for 2 minutes. Whoever they are, I respect them deeply because it's not me.
Definitely isn't me either.
Okay.
I think this takes so much discipline to be honest with yourself and go, I know I'm not going to be able to do this. Yeah. I know I'm not going to sit on my phone and actually be there for just 2 minutes. I know it's going to be longer. And then be honest to yourself and actually act on it.
Yeah.
We all know that we have these flaws, but to actually have the discipline to go, okay, I'm going to put my phone down now and do it later. Because it also takes so much resilience to do the work that you have to do. Once you get that first step out of the way and start, it takes so much resilience to be able to go, okay, now I'm going to study, and when I'm done with physics, I have to move on, and now I have to do chemistry. And like, just sometimes it feels there's like no in between, just one after the other, looking at all the different plates and trying to multitask almost.
And it is difficult because that's where you need that bird's eye view, where you have to come out a little bit, because I think if you're going from one to the next to the next to the next, you're just going to burn out. And I think what you have to do is come out a little bit and say, right, timelines.
One last activity to do, which is the 2-minute childhood career ladder.
Okay.
Have you seen the Career Ladder show?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Go on.
So the idea is that I have 2 minutes. You have to pick, like, if you had multiple dream careers you had as a child, then like pick one, and then I have 2 minutes to ask you questions and guess what that is.
Okay.
And hopefully that would reveal something like that, and then we'll end off. So
okay,
I'm just going to put a timer for, a stopwatch. Let's do a timer.
Go on. So this is what would be my dream job.
Yeah, as a child, what you wanted to do.
Okay, what did I want to do? Okay, yeah, I've probably given it away, but go on.
Okay. Straight off the bat, is it a sport?
Yes.
Okay, now to guess what sport. Is it a team sport?
Difficult. It is a team sport, yes.
I'm not that good at sports, so let's see how well this goes. Do you play on a pitch?
Yes.
Like a football pitch?
No.
Is it a British thing?
No.
Is it more like American?
Yes.
Is it American football?
No.
Do you play with your feet?
No.
Do you play with your hands?
Yes.
How many people per team, like on average?
Oh, I need if you've got substitute, like 9.
Okay. Is there a ball?
Yes.
Is the ball round?
Yes.
It's about this big?
Bit smaller.
Like this big?
Bit smaller, yeah.
Oh, what is this sport? Is the ball heavy?
Yes. It hurts if it hits you.
Do you use your like hands or like a racket or something of some sort?
Both.
What is this sport?
50 seconds.
Is it one word or 2 words or more?
It's 2 words, let's say.
Do you have a net?
No.
So it's just, do you like have to put it in a goal of some sort?
No.
So what are you doing with the ball? And
Some people are throwing it, some people are hitting it, some people are catching it.
do you have a hoop?
No.
I'm trying to think
Do
about
you
the
want me to tell you the
questions.
shape of... We play on a diamond.
You play on a diamond. That sounds familiar. Is there like a bat?
Yes.
It's a baseball.
Yes.
I got it.
With 3 seconds to
3
go.
seconds.
Very good. Very good.
Really feeling the pressure of the time. It's like, I have to get
Very
it.
good. You got there. Well
Yeah,
done.
baseball's a popular sport. I don't know how I didn't think
Loved
of
it. Well, I played softball and baseball when I was
softball,
growing
okay.
up. So, yeah, same. Very similar.
Yeah, I remember the softball unit in grade 9,
Yeah,
maybe.
so same
It
thing.
it's quite a fun unit though. I can see why you enjoyed it.
It's really good. Yeah, so I played to quite a high level. So I played for Great Britain, and then I was given a scholarship to go to America to go and play
Wow.
softball. Yeah, but I turned it down.
Oh.
Now, that was probably the wrong choice. But as I was saying, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have then trained to be a teacher, and I wouldn't have moved to Abu Dhabi. So, as much as it may have been a mistake, it was the right choice because eventually I ended up.
You got where you're supposed to be and where
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
happy.
Exactly.
So yeah, on that note, I think it was a really nice podcast. I really love this discussion.
Thank you.
And I'd love to talk to you again eventually.
Love
if we
to.
do
Thank
another
you so much for
podcast.
having me on. It's been an absolute
Thank you
pleasure.
so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we will end off at that.
Thank you.